Hey guys, Ronnie here. Man, I want to talk to you guys today about one of my favorite baits that I like to fish all times of the year, but especially in the pre-spawn. Time to catch them is coming up, especially here in North Carolina. We've had a really tough winter with a lot of up and down weather, and recently it's been snowing and a lot of cold temps at night. So the water temperature, I went out there the other day and it was in the mid 40s. So over the next 2 or 3 weeks of the water warming up, sun coming out a lot longer, it's going to really help fishing. But man, chatterbaits are my favorite thing to fish. There's so many different kinds of chatterbaits, bladed jigs, whatever you want to call them, but my favorite to throw is the Z-Man's chatterbait. It's as simple as it is. Z-Man came out with a bait that is almost perfect. You don't have to do many adjustments when it comes to these things. You can fish them right out of the pack, and they'll do well for you all year long. So I want to talk to you guys about my favorite things to do when I'm rigging up a chatterbait, what my preferences are, and I hope if anybody doesn't know how to throw a chatterbait or doesn't know what they should look for in a chatterbait, hopefully some of my preferences help you catch more fish. Obviously, I'm not a Bassmaster Elite Series pro by any means, but I do love to fish a chatterbait, and I have spent a lot of time trying to figure out what I like and the different combos I've used, and I think I've kind of figured out exactly what I like to have in a rod, reel, in the chatterbait itself, and the different colors and sizes. So I'm going to take you guys through the different seasons and what I want for my bait. So basically, since we're here, this is late February, and the fish are, coming out of those winter patterns. They're starting to do those pre-spawn patterns, and this is the best time to catch one of your biggest fish of the year by far, in my opinion. Unless you live on the Tennessee River, where you have some of the best ledge fishing, this is going to be when some of those the biggest concentrations of big fish are moving shallow, and you can catch them in any depth really that you want for the next couple of weeks and months. But pre-spawn, moving baits, that's probably one of my favorite ways to catch them. So when it comes to a chatterbait, man, I like two sizes. I like a 3/8 and a 1/2 ounce, and those aren't, it's not a big difference between those two, but I do know that I don't like a really light one, and I do throw a heavier one, but we'll get to that in a little while. I like a 3/8 and a 1/2 ounce. That's just a good standard weight for a chatterbait. And when I'm throwing these in the springtime, I like to target the deepest grass lines that you can. If your lake has grass, that's what I like to look for. Obviously, those fish want to get around any kind of cover that's going to warm up quick, whether it's riprap, whether it's dead grass that the sun's beating down on and warming up, whatever it is. They like to get near it, and that's where the forage is also going to be as well, and they're going to try to ambush the prey as best as possible. So the two colors I like to do, I like to throw a white chatterbait, white and chartreuse, has a silver blade on it, and this is one of the original Z-Man chatterbaits with the old clip style, and I'll talk about the new ones in a little bit. But I love the white for those cloudy days. You don't need a lot of flash, and sometimes I feel like on those sunny days, if you throw a white and chartreuse with a silver blade, it really puts off a lot of flash, but it's almost too much. It's almost like a glow sometimes. When you're reeling your bait back and the sun's beating down and it's pretty clear water, it's gonna have like a little aura around it, a little glow. Sometimes I think it's a little too bright for those sunny days, so I like to throw it predominantly on cloudy days. I'll pair this white and chartreuse chatterbait with a pearl chartreuse. Sometimes I'll dye the tail, and sometimes I'll just get a standard swim bait that already comes as pre-dyed. This is my favorite trailer for the chatterbait, as you'll see over the next couple baits, is a Yeehaw Swim Baits 3-inch Little Thumper, and I also like the 4-inch Little Thumper. Yeehaw Swim Baits is a local North Carolina company that makes some great hand port swim baits. A lot of love and effort and time dedicated to these baits. So I love this bait because it's so thin. Check out how thin that swim bait is. I don't want a really fat swim bait. I don't want something that just bulks up around the shank of the hook. I really don't like that. So I like that skinny swim bait with this really soft material that lets this paddle tail just thump in the water, hence its name Little Thumper. for the size of these baits, the amount of vibration and thump these things produce is one of my biggest reasons I like it on a chatterbait. You know, and I also throw in like a fish head spin on those herring lakes in the summertime, fall, anytime really for a fish head spin. But the little thumper is such a versatile bait in my opinion. You can throw it on the back of a spinnerbait if you only have one hook. Obviously it's a little harder if you have a trailer. And then also my favorite way to throw it is on a chatterbait. So that's my white and chartreuse. Simple as it gets. Sometimes, you know, you can see this one's also gotten beat up quite a bit, so I'll take a little bit of fingernail polish. I'll paint them up just to keep them a little white, just to avoid that silver lead shining through. My other favorite bait and color is a black and green pumpkin chatterbait, and I'm really excited that Z-Man's coming out with a matte black blade. Matte black. Yes, you heard it. A couple days ago they posted on their social media, said that they've gotten a lot of complaints and questions about if they could do that, so they came out with a nickel blade, as you can see here. Kind of a nickel. It's got a little bit of shine to it, but it's still that darker blade. It's not straight silver, so I like that a lot. But for these, this is the original chatterbait, like I said before, and this came with a silver blade. You know, and I just, if I know I'm going to be throwing a chatterbait at a given lake or a different time of the year, I'll just sit in my apartment and I'll paint up a couple of the blades. Most of them I'll paint up black, you know, especially for this green pumpkin and black chatterbait. I'll paint up the blades black with a simple Sharpie. Obviously it's going to wear off when that blade is vibrating back and forth, but I don't mind that at all. It'll give it a little bit more shine than you know, just a straight black. So we'll see how the matte black blade is, but I'm super excited that Z-Man's coming out with that. It takes a lot of it'll take a lot of tinkering away from what I do with some of these blades, and it'll also you know, it'll last a lot longer. I know their finish is going to be really good on that. So, but basically with the green pumpkin trailer, man, I love throwing a Tennessee shad yeehaw swim baits. It's just you can see here, it's like a green pumpkin with a little bit of like a tan or brown at the top with a clear bottom, and it just looks really good coming through the water. Sometimes I like to dye the tail just a little bit to give it a little bit of different color, but majority of the time I'm going to throw a green pumpkin with a black blade in those sunny conditions. Just like I said, the reason I throw the chartreuse and white on cloudy days is because I want it to just be as dull as possible, but that it brightens it up. On a sunny day where there's a lot of sun penetrating the water and making the baits a lot clearer for the fish, I like something that looks, you know, a little bit more vague to them. It's a little duller. So this, you know, in my opinion, looks like a bluegill at times when you're ripping it through the grass, or you know, baiting it off rocks, off riprap, or, you know, I like to throw it around docks as well. But for the pre-spawn, I really like these two. You know, those are my colors throughout the year, but for pre-spawn, that's kind of what I'm looking for. You know, the only thing that I'll sometimes do with those green pumpkin chatterbaits is I'll put a blue and chartreuse trailer on the back of it, just in case if it's a little muddier than I expected, or the clarity, you know, isn't as good on that day. You know, sometimes in the rainy conditions it works, you know, so that's what my kind of go-to is. And these are all the original chatterbaits. I've got some of the new clasps and the new clips. I'll show you here. If you haven't seen them, obviously they've been out for a few months. It's a new line tie where you tie your line to the chatterbait blade. It's going to keep it from pulling apart, as some people have, you know, said these clasps will pull apart on a big fish. So with that new clasp, that's most likely not going to happen ever. And they also redesigned the head. As you can see, it's a streamline head. You know, it has an eye on the side compared to almost like a flipping jig head. You know, so they've came out with a lot of things. And with these advancements with the chatterbait, they have the bait keeper to keep your swim bait or your crawfish or whatever you're trying to imitate pegged up on that hook even better with that keeper. So really excited about the new blades, like I said. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands on a couple of those. But man, one underutilized thing that people don't do with a chatterbait is during the summertime. You know, I know that pre-spawn, this thing's money. Summertime, people throw a swim jig, the people throw different things, and they kind of limit the chatterbait to just a pre-spawn or a cold water technique. But I've had some of my best success fishing a chatterbait when no one else is. Everyone wants to throw in the pre-spawn, like I said. In the summertime, you know, the early summers, those fish are starting to pull back off the banks and try to go a little deeper. I still throw a chatterbait because it's something they're not going to be seeing a whole lot of in the next couple weeks. You know, during that May, June time period, you know, I really think that they don't see it. And it does, you know, if you don't want to throw a single swim bait, you don't want to throw a crankbait, but you still want to cover that middle depth area, I really like a chatterbait. You know, I'll try to find the heaviest size I can, and, you know, get the heaviest jig head size matched up with the skirt I like, and, you know, go to work on those deeper depths. I started making my rods with MHX blanks. MHX, based out of Florida, and they make a really good, you know, really good blank for all kind, whatever you want. And this is an MB873. It's their 7'3". It's a 3 power. If you're not sure what a 3 power is, yeah, I would classify it as like a medium heavy rod. I pair with a lose reel, and really, I'm a diehard believer in fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon on a chatterbait is, you know, what I go to. I don't ever throw it on braid. Some people throw it on braid, but I feel like if you have a medium heavy or a heavy rod with braid, you'll tend to pull it away from the fish before they really have it. And I like my rod to load up before I ever set the hook. You know, I want those fish to kind of start getting it, and then as I pull into it, they already have that pretty good in their mouth. I feel like I haven't lost many fish doing that at all. So I like to pair it up. MB873. I'm basically a 7'3" medium heavy rod, and I throw it on 15-pound fluorocarbon. 15-pound fluorocarbon gets it done for me. I'll go up to 17 sometimes if it's heavier cover, or I'm dealing with some bigger fish in my area that I want to make sure I get them in the boat. So 15 or 17. I never go below 14-pound test, and I never go to 20. I like to keep 15 and 17. I feel like that's, for as much cover as I'm trying to bring that through, it's going to be abrasion resistant, as well as it's going to be sensitive, and it's going to hold up. So, you know, I don't have to retie all the time coming through that cover. You know, I feel my line occasionally, and I'll make that adjustment, and I'll retie if I have to. But, you know, that's my setup. I like a 7'3" medium heavy rod and a 15-pound fluorocarbon with a 3/8 ounce or a 1/2 ounce chatterbait head. And my reel ratio, I don't like to change my reel ratio for a chatterbait. I'll change my cadence personally. If I want to slow down and slow roll a chatterbait, I'll do that with my hands physically. But if I want to speed it up and I want to burn a chatterbait, I'll do that manually myself. I like to keep a 6-to-1 gear ratio, basically 6-4-to-1, 6-1-to-1, whatever you want, but I keep it in the 6s. I feel like that's a good middle ground for a chatterbait. So get out there, throw it, change up your cadence, change up the type of cover you throw it on. I mean, I've had success throwing it around docks, and that sounds weird because you could fish a jig on a dock, you could fish a shaky head, whatever you want on a dock, but you know, some of those fish like moving baits around docks, so I'll skip a chatterbait up underneath a dock just like I would a jig. You know, throw it down the sides, throw it around posts and laydowns, and it's something they don't always see, but the way the head design is, with both head designs, I feel like they come through cover great. This, in my opinion, comes off wood better than I expected, and this will come through grass a lot better as well. It's not going to get hung up. It's pretty narrow, so it's gonna stay true, and it's not going to get all tangled up. So that's my favorite bait to throw when they're not on the beds. You know, any time of the year I can throw that bait, and I know that fish are going to eat it. You know, whether you're trying to throw a big swim bait on it, you can throw a 5-6 inch swim bait on the back of that thing if you're trying to emulate, you know, a gizzard shad on the Tennessee River, or you can throw a smaller trailer if you're trying to emulate a blueback herring on a Lake Lanier or a Hartwell, or, you know, whatever the shad size is. You can match up that swim bait trailer to the chatterbait perfectly, and you can always find fish in a lake that want to eat a chatterbait, and that's just my opinion. But I hope you guys like this video. I hope you guys enjoy some of the tips. I'm gonna try to keep doing some of these things as well as going fishing. I don't have a boat right now, so I get to go with buddies. I get to call them up on the phone and say, hey, can we go fishing? So hopefully in the next couple weeks I'll be able to go fish in different places after I get back from the Classic and some of my other events. So we're going to see if we can make some more videos this spring, but I'll also be doing some of this just when I'm figuring out, you know, new baits, new techniques, new ways I tinker with my baits. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you like it. Talk to you soon, guys. Thanks.